My name is Lebokang. I was born in Mawopani, Pretoria, but most of my life I grew up in Pretoria, North Acacia. I come from a family of four, my mom, my dad, and my older brother. So I only have one sibling. Um, yeah, we were a tight, small family, and then after I think 2001, my parents they split up, and then so my mother was the one who raised us on a day-to-day, but my father was still around. So yeah, we were just close family. I'm close with my brother, my mother, my father. Yeah, I went to school in Pretoria. I went to SA College for primary, and then I did a year at Montana High School. And then I moved back to SA College for high school. Um, I had a very, how can I say, a free life in the sense that in my house they always post education. If it wasn't education, then you have to have a hobby that you are focused in. So I enjoyed a lot of music. I enjoyed a lot of chess, playing chess. I'm not much of a sports person, so I enjoyed a lot of reading. Mostly in December. I mean, around Christmas time, around New Year time, you'd have fireworks, you'd have braais, you would see your family, your cousins you haven't seen in a long time. You'll all gather at your grandmother's house and you would have lunch. Those are the memories that keep playing in my head. For me, it was always to be either a scientist or an engineer or a doctor. A doctor was being pushed around in my house. My mom always wanted us, maybe me or my brother, to become doctors. But my dad was always, the science one, the one who's always pushed maths, who always pushed us to do science and concentrate on those subjects. So I knew that if I'm not going to be a doctor, then I'm going to be someone along the maths and science. It wasn't easy, but I will say it required a lot of practice, a lot of repetition. The more you do something, the more you become better at it. And just the key sense of interest. You have to love what you're doing or be interested in what you're doing. That makes the process a little much easier. Yeah. In high school, my inspiration for science, my interest in science was, how can I say, nurtured by my physical science teacher, the late Mr. Solomo. He was that teacher who channeled the students, who made science fun for us. So I could say he was my mentor during the high school days, and I always made it an extra effort to pass well on my maths, pass well on my physics, so that I can learn more from him. But aside from that, I can't say I was the popular kid. I was well known. People knew who I was, but I can't say I was popular. Besides that, I think I was very quiet in respect to my peers, my friends that I used to hang around with. So I was always the quiet one in the group, so to speak. When my folks divorced, I was 12 years old. This was in 2001. Yeah, but around that time, me and my brother were very close because we were all we had. I had him and he had me, and that's all we had. Our parents were going through their own problems. Yeah, it was a bit of a rough time, but I have to thank my mother and my father. They were very good at making the transition seem a little bit less painful as it was. Yeah. I understood what was going to happen. I mean, my dad was no longer going to be in the house. That part was clear. But as to why things were happening the way they were, though, it was a little bit blurry. But as I said, my brother was there to help me out a lot in that, in terms of, don't worry, just focus on your school, don't forget your homework, that sort of thing. My matric year, I had already built an idea of what it is that I'm going to do. It's either going to be a doctor, a medical doctor, or I'm going to be a scientist or an engineer. So it was one of the three. But then in my matric, I started to develop an interest in chemistry more than anything else. So that kind of selected my journey going forward. In matric, I wasn't very much interested in other subjects. Like I did business economics, for instance. For me, it was just something that I'm doing to add up the marks, you understand? So, but as I said before, it all comes from being interested. I was really interested in maths, interested in physical science. When you're writing your matric, final exams, there's that pressure that this is matric. You have to pause. You have to finish matric. You're in grade 12. You must be serious. So I felt that pressure, but at the same time, I was relaxed in a sense that my brother was there to help me. I mean, I was using his past question papers that he wrote 5 years before me for practicing and all that. So I felt the pressure to pass. I knew that I had to pass. It was just a matter of how well am I going to pass, because then now we're talking looking for bursaries for next year and stuff like that. So I had a bit of an anxiety towards that in terms of I need to get a bursary, I need to pass well and all that. And then when we went to go buy the newspapers in the morning after the exams, me and my friends, we were there, I think from the early mornings, we were there waiting for the garage to open. When we got the results, it said they passed with endorsement, meaning I get to go to varsity and all that, and I stand a chance of getting a bursary. So for me, that was good. I was happy. It was that sigh of relief, that the pressure is now over. I got my bursary with Sasol for about a year. Yeah, I studied for my undergrad at University of Limpopo, while it was still merged with the Medunsa campus in Garamkua. So I had my classes in Garamkua. I did my practicals in Garamkua under the University of Limpopo, while they were still together. Yeah. Well, in third year, my major subjects were biochemistry and chemistry. But for first year, I took maths, I took chemistry, I took psychology, I took biology as well. And then second year, it was more focused. It was chemistry, it was biochemistry, and I did physiology as well. I wanted to be a chemist. I wanted to study chemistry, understand chemistry, and just advance myself in that field. I wasn't sure what's going to happen to me after third year, because then there were issues of employment and stuff like that. But then by the time we came to third year, I focused, I made sure that I passed well, and then I got an internship here at CSR. I'm not gonna lie, I had the full experience of tertiary. I studied, I partied. I was a people's person in a sense of the people around my residence. They all knew me. I used to visit them, they used to visit me. My friends who were very much into sports, I used to go to the sports field and watch a lot of soccer. My friends would play in the league. But when it was time to study, I was there to study. If there was an event to go to around the campus, I would make sure that I attend, interact with people. So yeah, I was a people's person. During my third year, to be more exact, our lecturer, he organized a school trip to here CSIR, a field trip for third year students. So when we were here, I got introduced to people at Biosciences Unit, which is one of the units here at CSIR. Then that's when I first saw CSIR and what's going on here. So by the time I went back to school, it was already programmed in my head that I want to come work here. So the following year, I applied for an internship at Biosciences. I got shortlisted. They put it up on the website, the CSIR website, when the internships come out. And then there is an email address. I think it's recruitment@CSR, if I'm not mistaken. I went to that email address. I put in my CV. I put in my academic record. And then I got shortlisted. And then did the interview, and I got the job. At that time, my mother was playing the key role. For me I started making visits here at CSR before the interviews were being handed out. So for me to frequently visit CSR Biosciences, I needed money. So my mother was always there giving me money for transport to come to Biosciences and just interact with the people. And then from then on, it was just a thing of one of the research group leaders. He really liked how I was in terms of my knowledge, in terms of what I could do in the lab as well. So then I got shortlisted for the interview. Then I got the job. I was part of a group in a platform called Emerging Health Technologies at the time at Biosciences. And then I was there as an internship. As an intern, I was cleaning up after people. I was learning where I can. I was really earning the stripes, trying to make my mark and just get myself into the system. So I did my internship for 2 years. And then on the third year, I saw that it's necessary for me to grow. I need to go back to school. So I went back to University of Limpopo, Medunsa campus. I did my honors in chemistry there. That was in 2014. And then 2014, after that, I was looking for a job. came back to CSR, I applied for a master's studentship, I got shortlisted. I was paid for my second year and third year. Biophotonics is an interdisciplinary field of science whereby we study the interaction between lasers and biological samples. Biological samples can be cells, it can be blood, anything produced by a mammal that we study using lasers. I was doing my master's in physics. I was doing a project whereby I was inserting DNA into mouse cells using lasers. But then now for my PhD, I'm involved in a different project in the field of spectroscopy, which is a way of getting, you see, every sample, every biological sample, it has its own fingerprint. You can think of it as a fingerprint, just like how we humans have our own fingerprints. So with spectroscopy, we're using lasers to investigate the fingerprints of biological samples. So the idea is a cancer cell will have a fingerprint that's different from a normal cell. So we're trying to investigate those differences using lasers. The SPIE conference in California, San Francisco, it's a photonics conference whereby everybody in the field of photonics, biophotonics, nanophotonics, and the likes, we go there, we present the work that we do here in our respective labs. So I was chosen to go and present on behalf of the group 2 projects. One was involving the insertion of DNA into mouse cells, which was my project, the one I was working on. And another one was for HIV investigation using lasers as well. So I went there to present the 2 projects, and it was very well received. The people were very surprised in a very good way that Africa is also playing a part in this type of research. We as biophotonics, there's only 3 labs in the whole continent that do the type of research that we do. So our presence there at the conference was very well received, and they liked that Africa is also playing. When I talk about point of care, I mean something that you can use at the hospital on site next to the patient to get whatever information you need to get from them. So with our studies here, what we do is we are building biosensors, things that can tell you if this biological sample has HIV or it doesn't, and if this sample has cancer or it doesn't. So if you remember the recent SONA by President Cyril Ramaphosa, he made mention of the diseases that are plagued in the country and how now we need to combat them. The Minister of Health of Health also made reference to that things like cancer, things like HIV, they're becoming worse, and these are things that are lifestyle-based. So we at CSR, being a key value chain of the Department of Science and Technology, we're trying to help in that, in combating them from a technology standpoint. Right now, all our medical diagnostic devices are imports from other continents. So we need to curb that and take charge of it and say we're going to produce things locally, and then if they break down in hospitals, we are the ones that are going to maintain them. So ultimately, the systems that we are building here, we want to see them in hospitals, being used for diagnosis, being used for detection, being used for screening methods, and the like. So that's how we are aiming to help the community. My passion lies in chemistry, even today. And I'm lucky to be part of the biophotonics group, because with the spectroscopy work that I'm doing, I am allowed to put in as much of my chemistry knowledge into it as possible in order for us to enhance the technique and come closer to building biosensors that can be point-of-care machines that you will find in the public hospitals, that you will find in private hospitals, where patients can get proper help and get the right information with as little fuss as possible. In our group, there are 2 things that we do. First one is the optical manipulation. By that, we mean that we do something called optical trapping, where we are able to use the laser as a magnet to attract the cell. And then once we have it trapped in the magnetic field, we do the second application where we are doing sensing. So there's various ways that we can sense. We can look for the fingerprints, like how I just explained to you. Once the cell is in there, we flash it with another laser, and then from there we get the molecular fingerprints to tell us, okay, this is a cell that is normal, does not have HIV. Because when you investigate HIV, for instance, you look for CD4. CD4 is what you'll be looking for. So we'll be able to distinguish between a cell that has enough CD4 versus a cell that does not have enough CD4. And then from there, you can deduce which one is HIV infected or not, as an example. This method is necessary because it's, number one, non-invasive. By that, I mean you don't have to do many things to the patient in order for you to get the sample that you need. I mean, you can think of, if you think of these other methods where they put cameras inside somebody's mouth to see if they have ulcers and stuff like that. Our method is completely different. Number two, we don't do any chemical modification to the samples. What other people do now in tests that are similar to ours is that they will attach chemicals into the sample, put this chemical and that chemical, and then do the analysis. And that tends to be inaccurate as a measurement method. So our laser method is necessary because you can do non-invasive experiments and investigate, get proper data from the sample without having to fiddle with it as much as possible. In low-resource communities, we like to see this technology in the hospitals. We like to see this technology being around nurses, whereby a nurse can just take you into the room, put you onto the machine, and then you'll get data readout, and then you'll be able to know, okay, your HIV CD4 is like this or it's like that. You need to be on this medication, on that medication. So we want to replace all the imports that you see in the hospitals. Most of these machines that you see there, it's either made in Asia, made in the US. We want to stop all of that. We want to be the ones to develop our own techniques. And when they break down, we want to be the ones to come there and maintain and provide maintenance for them. We don't want to be waiting for an engineer in Germany to fly over here so that this machine can be fixed in Baragwanath. I mean, that's going to take a while. So what we are trying to do is build point-of-care diagnostic machinery that can be used for detection, diagnosis, and screening of the various diseases that we have. We do have technicians. Technicians will be there to maintain the system, will be there to repair the minor things. But if something fundamental within the system was to break down, it's a matter of now we have to call somebody from Asia to come and fix this. And that alone can take its time to fix. You know, so what we are trying to do is develop that innovation spirit within South African science, whereby we are doing things for our own and we are ready to teach those that are coming up after us. I'm going to be here for a long time. I'm going to be here for a long time, and the reason behind that is I want to develop a screening method whereby a person with cancer, already diagnosed with cancer, can be able to use our systems to see if the medication that they are on is working for them or not. And then secondly, I want to see our systems being in a position where we generate data for South Africa. So if South Africa is plagued with breast cancer, for instance, we need to have breast cancer data on that. Look, this is the extent of the breast cancer, this is the medication that's given, and this is how effective it is on a country scale. And we want to be able to do that for not only breast cancer, for prostate cancer, for HIV and the likes. So that's going to require me to be here for a long time, and I'm happy to take on the journey and the challenge, especially because in our group, you know, we are given the freedom to think, we are given the freedom to explore, and that will just only grow me as a person individually. Yeah. When I'm not working, as I said, I'm a big fan of music. So I love music, I like to write music, I like to listen to music. I play a lot of video games. If I'm not playing video games, then I'm out with my friends, you know, socializing, meeting people, and just hearing other people's stories, because we are all on different journeys. So sometimes it's very good to just sit back and just listen to what the other person has to say. What are they experiencing in their day-to-day life? So human interaction is quite big. So I don't party as I used to in varsity days. I mean, I can't do it anymore, to be honest. So right now it's just a matter of staying focused on the job. If it's not the job, then I'm mostly with my friends. To that young student who is in high school, who wants to study science, but they do not know how to go about it, or they're not sure what to do about it, the first thing that I would tell them to do is to keep practicing their craft. Keep practicing your mathematics, your physical science. The more you do, the better you become at it, and your efforts will show on your marks. And once you have them on your marks in your matric certificate, all you have to do is knock on doors and show them, and people will respond. There are a lot of opportunities out there for people who are aspiring to be young scientists, because there will always be opportunities, because why we are moving as a country, moving towards industrialization, making our own products, making our own techniques and stuff like that. So there's always going to be an opportunity for the scientist who wants to better themselves, who wants to venture out. So all I can say is believe in yourself, believe in your craft, believe in that passion that fuels you, that you know you love, and it's going to reflect on your results. And that's when people will start noticing you, and then you take it from there. Just to add more about what we do here at Biophotonics, our goal is to make point-of-care biosensors for detection, diagnosis, and screening of various diseases in the country. And I can say we are the very few people who are taking on this challenge. So if there are students out there who are interested in doing the physics, the chemistry, and biology and all that, just know that we are always going to be here doing the work, and opportunities are going to come from us opening the door for the next coming people, because our idea is to have this thing ongoing, is to have a constant production line of these diagnostic tools. And for that to happen, we need as many youth, as much youth presence of the youth as possible. So I'd like to say that here at CSIR, your career will grow. Here at CSIR, you will be taken care of in terms of not only challenges you have in the lab, but challenges that you may have as a human being. Whatever you're facing personally, there are professionals here to take care of you. So to that young scientist, you can make it here. You can do it. Just believe in your craft and keep practicing your craft.